Okay, I think we can get started now. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Sapna Dixit, and I am the Strategic Accounts Manager here at Peninsula Clean Energy. Welcome to our first webinar of 2021 for our commercial and industrial customers. I hope you were able to use the DoorDash gift cards to join us virtually with a lunch today. If you didn't receive one, my email address will be at the end of the presentation. Please let me know, and we'd be happy to send you a follow-up to use at a different date. So today we hope to provide you with some relevant, interesting content about what has been happening at Peninsula Clean Energy. Probably similar to most of you, we have been working remotely for the past year, but have had a lot going on and have some exciting updates to share today. We plan to provide a regular series of these updates on Peninsula Clean Energy offerings in the future. My role as Strategic Accounts Manager is to support all of you with our programs and account services, but also to hear from you about your corporate sustainability and energy goals. So after this webinar, please feel free to reach out if you would like to share ideas on topics you'd like to hear about in the future, in a future update. Or discuss ways that we can partner together as well. Just a note, I'll be sending out the slides for all the presentations after the webinar today. Next slide. Okay, so here's our agenda for today. First, just in a minute, I'll introduce Jan Pepper, our CEO, to give a welcome. And then we will be hearing from Siobhan Doherty, our Director of Power Resources, on how we currently procure power, do our reporting and our goals around renewable energy. We'll also have a presentation from Michael Toda, who is our Rates Senior Analyst, on 2021 rate changes and the time of use rate transition that has happened this year. And then we'll close it out with some additional program updates on some upcoming programs launching later this year as well. Next slide, please. Just some logistics. We'll leave time for Q&A after each presentation, and we definitely want to hear your questions. Please feel free to enter your question into the Q&A box during the talk, and we will monitor them and answer them once we get to the Q&A portion. If you'd like to ask your question verbally, you can do that as well. You can raise your hand in Ring Central and we can call on you. You can then unmute yourself and ask your question. Please introduce yourself and your organization and let us know if you're having any technical difficulties. If you are on the phone and cannot raise your hand, then you could unmute yourself and ask your question. So I think we can get started. So to kick it off, I would first like to introduce our CEO, Jan Pepper. So Jan, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Sapna, and welcome to all of you. It's really exciting for us to have this first commercial industrial customer webinar, and we're really excited that you joined us today. Next slide, please. So hopefully all of you know about Peninsula Clean Energy. We were launched in 2016, so it's hard to believe we've actually been in business here for 5 years. And our main goals are to reduce carbon emissions and expand access to sustainable and affordable energy. And when we were launched back in 2016, each jurisdiction that is part of Peninsula Clean Energy, which is every city and town and the county of San Mateo, voted to join PCE, and all of them voted unanimously to be a part of PCE. Next slide, please. Last year, we put together our first long-term strategic plan, 5-year strategic plan, and the 2 top priorities for our organization are to design a powered portfolio that is 100% carbon-free by 2025 that aligns supply and demand on a 24/7 basis. So it's a big lift. No one has done that yet, but that's part of the excitement of being a CCA, is that we can really move the needle and move sustainability forward. And the other big objective is to contribute to the county reaching the state's goal to be 100% carbon-free by 2045 in all aspects of the economy. Next, please. So as you know, we have two products. Eco Plus is our default product that everyone was automatically enrolled in. It's 50% renewable, and we're very excited to announce that this year, 2021, we have reached our goal to be 100% carbon free in our Eco Plus product. And since inception, this has always been 5% below PG&E. So our customers have always been getting energy savings as well as cleaner electricity by being a PCE customer. And then we have our Eco 100 product, which is 100% renewable. And Siobhan will go into more details about this. And it's Green E certified. And this is a 1 cent per kilowatt hour premium over our Eco Plus product. So a number of you attending today are Eco 100 customers, and thank you for opting up to be 100% renewable. Next, please. We also are an investment credit rated organization. We have 2 credit ratings, one from Moody's that we got in 2019, and we are rated as Baa2, and another from Fitch that we received in 2020, and we're BBB+. And we might note that these are higher investment ratings than the local investor-owned utility. And so we are always striving to maintain or improve these credit ratings, and we're looking at also getting another investment rating from another agency. Next, please. So I just wanted to let you know that you are really important to us, as our commercial and business customers make up 60% of our electric load. The rest is from residential customers. So our focus on you is very important, and we want to make sure that we're meeting your needs. So you can see over the years in 2018, 2019, large commercial industrial was about 31% of our load and continues to be maintained at about that rate. In 2020, the residential load increased just because more people were working at home and not going into work. But we expect that this is going to probably change in 2021 to look like more like it did in 2018 and 19. Next, please. We're also excited to announce that we are expanding our footprint. So one of our projects that Siobhan will be talking about more, our 200 megawatt Wright solar project, is located right outside the town of Los Banos in Merced County. And so Los Banos was interested in also being able to enjoy the clean electricity from that plant. So they joined Peninsula Clean Energy in October. They got a seat on the board in November, and we will be enrolling customers from Los Banos in April of 2022. And we will also be talking to additional jurisdictions in Merced County in the hopes of bringing cleaner electricity at lower rates to the Central Valley as soon as we can. Next. So those are the highlights that I wanted to share with you. And thank you for attending today, and looking forward to hearing your questions and your comments as we continue today's webinar. And this is my contact info. If you ever want to reach out to me, please feel free to do that. So thank you so much. Oh, and I will introduce our next speaker, sorry, which is Siobhan Hardy, who is our Director of Power Resources. And Siobhan, take it away.
Right. Hi. Yep. As Jan said, I'm Siobhan Hardy. I'm the Director of Power Resources here at Peninsula Clean Energy, and I'm excited to share with you guys today a little bit about how we procure power. Next slide, please. So first, I wanted to share, this is our expected power mix for 2020. As Jan mentioned, we have 2 primary power products we serve. Eco Plus, which was in 2020, 95% greenhouse gas free. So that was made up of 50% renewable and then 45% large hydro. And then if you opted up to Eco 100, that was 100% renewable, with about half coming from wind, half coming from solar. Next slide, please. And then for 2021, as Jen mentioned, we're going to be 100% greenhouse gas free for Eco Plus. So half of that will be large hydro and half of that will be renewable energy. And that renewable energy is coming from a combination of resources, including solar, wind, biomass, and small hydro. Next, please. And then for Eco 100, we're going to continue to have the same mix of 50% wind and 50% solar. Next, please. As you noticed, I said 2020 was our projected power mix. And I get a lot of questions about when will we know what the actual power mix was for the previous year. It being, the middle of March, how come we don't know that yet? So I wanted to provide a little bit of background on what's driving that timeline and what kind of compliance reporting we do, which is what drives that timeline. We're required to report our retail sales and all purchases of energy to the California Energy Commission through what's called the Power Source Disclosure Program. And starting with our reporting for 2020, that will also include our greenhouse gas emissions intensity. And then we're also required to provide a power content label. And that power content label is informed by the Power Source Disclosure process. And for both of these reports, we have to use the templates and the calculations provided by the CEC. If we go to the next slide, we'll get into a little bit of what that timeline looks like. What this is primarily driven by is the way that we account for renewable energy is through something called renewable energy certificates. And those are tracked in a statewide, really Western region-wide tracking system called REGIS. And it takes about 90 days for the RECs to be in REGIS for that tracking purpose. So the December 2020 RECs will be showing up at the end of March. And then in April, we expect that the CEC will publish their Power Source Disclosure Reporting template. And then that report will be due to the CEC on June 1st. And then in July, we expect the CEC to publish the Power Content Label template. And we have to submit by the end of October a report showing that we've distributed that to all of our customers. So we won't have our Power Source Disclosure, which will have all of our mix on it until sometime in May, at which point we can update our website and start sharing it. Next slide, please. I also want to talk a little bit about some of the project-specific purchases that we make. So we've signed 10 contracts for project-specific purchases. This includes the Wright Solar project that Jan mentioned, as well as 4 small hydro and 4 wind projects for a total of almost 600 megawatts of projects. Next slide, please. So this table shows what those 10 projects are, what type of resource they are, where they're located, and whether they're operating, which most of them are, or one is under construction, and the size of those projects. And then we have 2 examples of those projects right here, these small pictures. But you can see these are really located all over California. Sorry, next slide. And so this is the 200 megawatt Wright Solar project. It's outside Los Banos in Merced County. This is obviously a drone photograph. You can see it's a very large project. And next slide. And then this is the 38 megawatt Buena Vista wind project. Just thought it'd be nice to give you guys a visual of what these 2 projects look like. Next slide. So one thing that Jan mentioned is that our goal is to be 100% renewable on a time coincident basis, or matching up our customer load with our renewable energy supply. And I just wanted to take a minute to talk about what that means. So today, when we say that we're 50% or 100% renewable, we're doing that accounting on an annual basis. So we look at what is our total retail sales for the year, and then we procure enough renewable energy to meet 50% for Eco Plus and 100% for Eco 100. And we're just looking at that total number across the entire year. We're not looking at specific hours or specific months. Next slide. But what we want to move to is looking at this on an hourly basis. So this is a complicated slide, but the gray squiggly line at the top is showing our customer load for each year, 2020, 21, 22, out through 25. And each year we're showing 24 hours in a day. And our goal is to fill up each of those colored bars with renewable energy so that in every hour of the day, you're receiving renewable energy from Peninsula Clean Energy. Next slide, please. And then I also wanted to give a little bit of background on a couple of programs we've done for our residential customers. So the first one is called Power on Peninsula, Homeowners. It's helping our residential customers maintain power during grid outages. And we've partnered with a company called Sunrun, and customers that install solar plus battery storage can receive a $1,250 incentive, and then that will help them to maintain power in the case of an outage. And next slide. And the second program we did last year was to distribute portable batteries to medically vulnerable customers. And we're particularly helping customers that rely on a medical device and live in either a fire threat area where they're likely to lose power, or someplace that's been impacted by the public safety power shutoffs. And those customers received a portable backup battery. And we coordinated with 2 different community organizations to identify those customers, Senior Co-Signers and Puente de la Costa Sur. Next slide. I think that's my last one. Yep, thank you. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Thanks.
Thanks, Siobhan. And I do see a question in the Q&A box. Someone is asking, what is the biomass source? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we don't buy a lot of biomass. There's 2 ways that we buy power. Generally, one is through those project-specific contracts, and one is through portfolio. So we just contract with a supplier that will sell us a portfolio of resources, and that's where the biomass we expect will come from. But it's a projected amount, it's not specific yet. And we have, as in last year in 2020, the board set a goal for us not to rely on biomass in the future. So once those portfolio contracts expire, we wouldn't sign any other contracts that would include biomass.
Great, thanks, Siobhan. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A box. Just a reminder that please feel free to enter them if you have questions. And I don't see any hand raised, but I think we have some people on the phone. So I'll just give a second to say if anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask a question, please go ahead and do so. I see one more question in the Q&A, Siobhan, so we can go to that one. Can you please provide details on how you are going to meet 24/7 renewable? Is it battery storage, and is it for Eco 100 product?
Yeah, it'll be for all of our customers, not just Eco 100. So all customers would be receiving that 24/7. And we're gonna meet it through a couple of different ways. We're looking at procuring a diversity of resources. So solar power, wind, geothermal, to get resources that will be producing energy at different times of the day. And then to your question, yes, batteries will make up a significant portion of that as well to help us move those resources around. And we'll both do shorter duration and also long duration storage. And then we'll also work on some demand response. So are there ways that we can help our customers to use electricity differently, or to install solar plus storage the way that we're doing with the Sunrun program.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone on the phone who'd like to ask a question? I thought I heard someone. Okay, maybe not. Here, we do have a question from Jerry Meek here. Was the Eco 100 CO2 effect January 1st, 2021? Oh, effective, I think.
Yes, so we will be 100% greenhouse gas free for all of 2021.
Does that? I hope that answers your question, Jerry.
Yes, it did. Thank you very much. I just want to confirm from my reporting internally that it will be 100% CO2 free for the entire year.
Yes.
That's correct. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Feel free to ask on the phone. I think everyone's able to unmute themselves if they'd like to.
Will you be sharing the slides from this presentation?
Yes, I will be sending them out right after the webinar today.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Oh, I see another question here, Siobhan. How do you expect the PGE time of use change to affect your operations?
I'll let Michael also jump in, but the intent of the time of use charges is to align demand more closely with when we're seeing supply. So making it lower cost to use energy in the middle of the day, which is where we can procure solar power. And solar power is actually the cheapest renewable resource that we can procure right now. But Michael, I think will have an even better, spent more time thinking about time of use for us.
Yeah, we'll have that as part of his presentation and the rate change a little bit later. And one more question, is PCE considering a product that would allow C&I customers to keep RECs?
I don't think we've considered that yet, and I'm not sure. Maybe we can. I think maybe if you could reach out to Sapna, we could talk more about what goal is being trying to be achieved with that.
Yeah, I think this is an anonymous question, but if you would like to reach out to me, we are open to having conversations around that. There are some rules around. I think the question is around who can register RECs in which name. And so maybe we can talk to that further offline. And we have a question, pardon my ignorance, there's no such thing, or what I missed, but can you clarify what the sources of CO2 are for the Eco Plus program?
Yeah, so I think the question is related to, for Eco Plus, we're 50% renewable, 50% greenhouse gas free. And the greenhouse gas free portion is large hydro. Under the California Renewable Portfolio Standard, large hydro is not considered renewable, only small hydro. So that's what makes up our resource mix for Eco Plus.
Thank you, Siobhan. Let's see, oh yeah. Will all clean power be generated within California? Initially, it seems it is, but what about the future?
Yeah, right now, all of our power is generated in California. In order to count for the California RPS, most of it will also have to be, if it's outside of California, delivered into California. So it'd have to be a deal over the transmission wires to have that power come into California. So we may in the future find a project that makes more sense. Maybe it's a resource that's outside of California that we'd want to partner with, but the power itself would be delivered into California.
Thanks. I hope that answered your question, Eric. I see Jerry's hand up. Jerry, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, the contracts that you mentioned earlier, are these long-term fixed price contracts that will have price stability over a long period of time?
Yeah, they're a combination. A lot of them, particularly for new resources, are longer term contracts between 10 to, we have one that's 25 years long. So those that will provide price stability. Our goal is to have a combination of contract terms so that we have some coming off or expiring as we're signing up new ones, and we're never locked into more supply than we might need. But our goal is about 50% to come from long-term contracts.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Siobhan, another question from Matthew. How have increasingly renewable curtailments impacted PCE's operations and projects?
Yeah, there's been a lot of additional curtailment. So energy storage could help us solve some of that. We also spend a lot of time when we're looking at signing up these individual projects, doing analysis on how many other projects are in the area, how much curtailment do we expect to see, and how will that impact it. And as we think about our renewable strategy as well, we're thinking about how will curtailment impact that. In some cases, you can use storage to store the energy during the day where you're seeing the curtailment, and then input it onto the grid in the evening where there's higher peak power. So that's what we're looking at around our storage strategy.
Thank you. Okay, another question from John Kehoe. Have you looked at jobs created through PCE's renewable energy investments and the average pay rate of those jobs?
Yeah,
Good question.
oh, sorry, Sapna.
Oh, I just said good question, but sorry, go ahead and answer.
Sure. Yeah, job creation is something that's really important for Peninsula Clean Energy. We do have a board policy on labor and how our projects use labor. I don't know the exact number for number of jobs created. The majority of jobs are created in the construction phase of those projects. And for both of our large solar projects, they had project labor agreements. So I don't know the exact pay rates, but they had agreements with the unions that are active on those projects to agree to use union labor.
Great, thank you, Siobhan. A question as well, is there any indication of how the PCIA could change in the future? And I might, wait on that question for Michael's presentation coming up, because I think he might be able to address that, but unless you have any input, Siobhan, that you'd like to talk to.
No, I don't think I'm the best person to answer PCIA.
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in the next presentation, so we'll remember that one. Okay, anyone else on the phone before we move on who would like to ask a question verbally? Okay.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Siobhan. That was really informative. Thanks so much for your presentation. I will now, can we go to the next slide? So I will now introduce Michael Toda, who's our Senior Analyst, to give a 2021 PCE rates update.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Toda, Senior Analyst at PCE, and I'm going to be talking about rates updates today. Next slide, please. So I'm going to be discussing three main things. The first one is how we set our rates, which includes our value proposition of our 5% discount to you all. The second is the rate changes that have occurred and are currently happening for 2021. And the third is the time of use transition that is affecting all rate schedules. Next slide, please. So as you all know, PG&E is responsible for the delivery portion of your bill, and we are responsible for the generation portion of your bill. So what happens when PG&E updates their rates, we receive the detail of the generation rates. We take those generation rates and we multiply them by 95%. That gets us to our 5% discount. Now, in addition, we know that PG&E also charges all CCA customers what we colloquially call exit fees, or the power charge indifference adjustment and the franchise fee surcharge. Now, we know that all customers are charged those in addition to their delivery and generation rates. So what we do is we take that 5% discounted rate and then we subtract out those exit fees. And that gets us to our PCE Eco Plus rate. So what that means for you as a customer, when you pay your generation charges, that plus the additional exit fees gets you to that 5% savings. So our actual generation rates are about 40 to 50% less than PG&E's generation rates, but because we absorb the cost of these additional fees to ensure a discount to all of our customers, our generation rates plus these fees equals that 5% discount. So that's what we get to our Eco Plus rate. Now, as you know, we have two services, Eco Plus and Eco 100. Eco 100 comes at a premium of 1 cent per kilowatt hour. So how we bill that is it's just your monthly usage amount times 1 cent. And for example, if you use 500 kilowatt hours in a month, that equals to a $5 premium or if you use 5,000 kilowatt hours a month, that's a $50 premium. It's pretty straightforward. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to be talking about the rate changes that have already taken effect in 2021 and are currently happening. So you can see on the left is the PG&E rate changes. In the middle is Peninsula Clean Energy rate changes, and then the effects to you all. The difference in the dates is because sometimes we are able to enact our rate change to go live and be effective on the exact same day as PG&E's. However, a lot of the times PG&E publishes their rate details the day before they become live and effective. So what has happened is, let's say PG&E publishes them December 31st, then they go live January 1st. Well, we need to create the calculations, then present them to our board of directors to then go live. So that's exactly what happened in this January. So we presented them to our board and they approved them to ensure our 5% discount to our customers. And they became live for us on the generation portion of your bill on February 1st. The overall effective change of that first rate change to you all, to the commercial and industrial rate schedules, was an overall 3% decrease. There was a minimal change to the delivery rates. There was around a 5% decrease in PG&E's generation rates, but then a substantial increase, around 32%, to the PCIA. So because we absorbed that change, we then needed to significantly reduce our generation rates so that you all do not see that impact and to ensure your discount. So essentially overall, you all saw around a 3% decrease, and we absorbed the cost of that increase in PCIA. March 1st, same thing happened. They updated their rates, and we are currently right now proposing the updated rates to our board next Thursday, which is the first immediate board meeting after each rate change. And that will then most likely go live April 1st. We do not have any thought of there will be any issues or any delays. We very much expect them to be approved and go live April 1st. The change to C&I rates will be an overall around 1% increase. Again, there was a very minimal change to the delivery rates, a slight increase in PG&E's generation rates, and about an 8% increase, again, in the PCIA rates. So for us to absorb that cost and ensure our customers your 5% discount, that means that we will be reducing our rates by around 3%. But again, for you all, you'll see around a 1% overall increase in your total bill. And that's for the electricity portion, not for the gas, just to make that clear. You can also find our rates on our website. It's linked there at the bottom. As Sepna said, we'll be sending out these slides. And so you can find our detailed rate sheets always online at our website. Next slide, please. So now we'll be talking about the time of use transition. So this is occurring right now in the month of March on whatever meter read your account is on. And this is changing all rate schedules except for those accounts that are on legacy NEM rates or that have old meters. In our service territory in San Mateo County, that's around 320 that will be remaining on these old rate structures. But besides those, all the rest will be transitioning or have already transitioned to the new B letter of rates. B simply stands for business. It's pretty straightforward. And you can see in the table there that the old rates on the left and the new nomenclature on the right, B1 and B6 being small commercial, B10 is medium, B19 large commercial, B20 is industrial, and S stands for standby. So those are the standby rates. Next slide, please. Here I'll talk about the changes of the rate structure, and then in the next slide I will go into the reasons for all of these changes. The changes that are occurring are that now all of the rate schedules are on a time of use rate. Previously, there were 2 that were not time of use, whereas all the rest were. Now all of them, excuse me, are on, excuse me, I'm gonna have some water. Now all of them are gonna be on time of use. The peak periods are now pushing later in the day. From previously, they were noon to 6 p.m. Now they're gonna be from 4 to 9 p.m. And there's now an introduction of the super off peak period. It's a brand new peak period with these B rates that only is in effect from March through May, just in that springtime from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And as you can probably guess, it just means very low rates during that time. There is, instead of the summer and the winter seasons, each being equitable 6 months, now the summer season is shortening to 4 months from June through September, and the winter season are the other 8 months of the year. I know that in the illustration on the right, it looks like there's 3 seasons. There's not, there's still only 2, summer and winter. It's just illustrating that in the springtime, in those 3 months, there's that introduction of the super off peak. So still only 2 seasons, but now the summer season is shrinking by 2 months. And then the last change is that all of the time of use periods are in effect every day instead of just the weekdays. And as you can see, the illustration, it shows you that the 4 to 9 peak period is throughout the entire year across the board. The summer season is shortened, and the introduction of the super off peak period from March through May. Next slide, please. Now the reasons for these are, it's generally because it reflects more accurately the cost to serve. So the fact that now all rate schedules are on the time of use structure is because it more accurately reflects that there is an increase in demand later in the day, and it's not flat across all hours of the day to serve customers. And instead of putting the peak hours in the different rate classes, we are targeting now the system peak for all of California. And the system peak in California is between 4 to 9 p.m. So that's the reason why now all rate structures are targeting the peak in the evening hours instead of in the middle of the day. The introduction of the super off-peak period is because in those months of March through May, there is very mild weather in the state of California, and we have an excess of hydropower. So when we have pretty stable and low demand and excess supply, we can charge very low rates. The shortened summer season is because we saw that the higher summer demand really is only in effect from June through September. Having just an even 6-month split wasn't that accurate. And so because rates are higher in the summer, you now will only see those higher rates in 4 months instead of 6. And then the time of use periods being in effect every day also accurately reflects the fact that in the weekends, we also see higher demand in the evening hours instead of just flat demand across the board. Now, this we generally see during non-COVID times, but that's the reason. Pretty much all these changes more accurately reflects the cost to serve. Next slide, please. Oh, and that's questions. I can start off by answering the question about the PCIA that was asked, if we expect how the PCIA might change in the future. I could say that as you now have seen, the PCIA has increased this year, that I don't want to necessarily go into all the reasons and details of why there are added fees into that now, but we do expect it to decrease in a few years. So we definitely expect it to go down in a few years, and that is the trend that we are expecting. It's not really possible to give any more specifics than that, but that's what I can say.
Thanks, Michael. I do have another question here. Are these time of use periods the same as PG&E's?
Yes, yeah, we mirror PG&E's rate structure, mainly for ease of billing purposes. So it's the same exact period, same time frame as PG&E's structure.
Okay, next question from Bezad. Does 95% discount include both demand and consumption?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes, it does.
Okay, great, thank you. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A box. Let me look here if there's anyone who would like to ask a question verbally. Please unmute yourself. You can just go ahead and ask if you have any additional questions right now for Michael.
Great.
I don't see anything, but if anything comes up later, if you have questions regarding rates, please do reach out to us. I can, we can respond and answer anything as a follow-up answer after this webinar today. So thank you. Thank you, Michael, very much. All right, next slide. Okay, so I wanted to kind of end the webinar today with a couple of additional program updates to share on programs that we have that are launching later this year. So next slide. First, we have an energy data access tool that we are launching that I'm excited to tell about. It's through a partnership with Utility API, which is an energy data sharing platform. We will be launching the software application for Peninsula Clean Energy customers, which will basically allow easy access to your energy account information, including usage, billing, interval data. With this tool, you as a commercial customer will be able to log into a dashboard and get access to your utility data for all of your accounts, either through, you can access it through a report download, through email, or through as well a backend API. If you would like to integrate, the API integrates with any internal energy management system that your organization may be using internally. So, and this tool will also allow customers to give permission to share their utility data with a third party securely and easily. And this is valuable if you're working with any type of third-party energy providers and vendors doing on-site projects. And they need access to billing information or usage information. You can securely and instantly provide authorization to share that utility data to the third-party vendor. And it's through a two-factor authentication process, secure through that process. And so we've been hearing from our customers that easier access to data is something that's important to them. And so I'm hoping that it'll be valuable to all of you. We're looking forward to being able to provide this platform to our commercial customers sometime this summer. So please look out for additional communication on this. And next slide. All right, we also have launching soon a program to allow customers to be able to take advantage of low carbon fuel standard or LCFS credits. The LCFS program is a California statewide program designed to decrease the carbon intensity of California's transportation fuels and encourage low carbon alternatives. And so this specific Peninsula Clean Energy program is for electric vehicle charging stations that you may have existing at your facility for workplace charging. In this model, a customer would delegate their LCFS credits to PCE and provide PCE with quarterly usage data. And we will handle the procedure with CARB, which is the California Air Resources Board. They're administering the program to sell those credits on the LCFS market. And PCE will provide a share of that revenue from the credits to the customer. And we're still, the details are still being finalized around this. The value of the credits will depend on station utilization. So this program would make most sense for workplaces with a lot of EV charging or high utilization or maybe fleets. But we're interested in just collecting information on which customers might be interested in participating. Obviously, there's a lot of detail to be worked out, and we'll reach out when all of that is finalized. But if you think you'd like to learn more, then please reach out to me and let me know. And we can definitely follow up with discussions and set up conversations around this program and see if there's a fit there. So next slide. All right, great. Well, that was the updates I wanted to provide as in addition to our presentations today. And I do see a question here. What is the contingency / rate? So I'm assuming that might mean, I don't know if that's referring to maybe
I think that is for the LCFS credits.
Yeah, the LCFS credits. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we don't have a lot of the information yet, but the estimates that we have, the credits from, you know, we have Philip Kopernig on our team, which is kind of the expert in this program. And according to our internal estimates, the credits could be worth about a few $100s per station per year. But the more the station is utilized, that could increase. And so those are kind of ballpark estimates, but we are looking for additional data so that we can get some, you know, further clarification on what those rates might be, what the market rate is, and what the credits might be in terms of value to the customer. We are also working out the revenue sharing model, and so that's another thing that, you know, is still in the works in terms of being finalized, but we definitely want to hear from our customers on what kind of program would work for you. And so happy to have that conversation in the future. Okay, I think we have another hand up. Oh, Jerry has his hand up. Would you like to ask your question?
Yes, Samantha, I have two questions. The first is in regard to the real-time data for the metering. Are you going to be using the Share My Data platform from PG&E for the information, or are you going to have a separate source for that?
Yeah, we actually, this data does come from Share My Data, the PG&E portion of it, but we also have a data feed from our billing system. So we'll be able to provide both of the data from both of those data sources within this dashboard.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful for us, is because we're looking at real-time information for our utilization and understanding from that 4 to 9 p.m. to avoid those demand spikes and usage during that period of time. So for the timing on receiving that information, would it be a lag time of a day or week or a month we could get access to that?
It's not, it's the data will be sourced from, the Share My Data will be sourced from PG&E. So it will be at the same interval that they publish their data. So we won't be receiving any meter data, you know, faster than what they're able to provide. Is that, I think it's about a 3-day lag from when the meter date is read.
Yeah, that's correct. There's about a 3-day lag. My next question is about the LCFS credits for our bus charging. Now, we have a significant number of buses and expanding that portfolio. So we'd like to talk to you more about that in the future, Samantha.
Absolutely. Yes, I will set up a meeting with you to go over all the details, and we'd like to hear from you on what your situation is with the bus fleets, and hopefully we can you know, have a conversation around whether this program would be a fit for that. So I'll take that as an action item.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. All right. Any other questions on these program updates or anything else that you've heard today in the presentation? I think that we can probably give you a few minutes back of your hour, but I want to thank you all for attending. Really appreciate it. We look forward to providing additional updates to you all in the future. And like I said, we'd love to hear what you want to hear about. But as we roll out these new programs, I'll be you know, scheduling additional webinars in probably next quarter will be the next one. So please do look out for that. And thanks again for joining, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Goodbye.